I am 28 years old and my husband Liam is 30. We had just gotten married. The day was perfect, or at least I thought it was. The ceremony was beautiful, a small affair with just close family and friends under a canopy of old oak trees. The reception was warm and filled with laughter. I felt like I was floating on a cloud of pure happiness. Liam was by my side, his hand never leaving mine, his smile so bright it could have outshone the sun. We were dancing, a slow, swaying dance to a song that meant the world to us. His family seemed to embrace me. His mother, Brenda, had been a little distant during the planning, but she was smiling now. His father, Robert, was quiet but gave me a warm hug and welcomed me to the family. And then there was Clara. Clara, Liam's older sister, was his only sibling. She was the maid of honor. Throughout the day, she had been intense. Her speech was less about me and Liam as a couple and more about her and Liam as a unit, a lifelong team. She told stories from their childhood that felt a little too intimate, full of inside jokes that no one else understood. She cried, but it didn't feel like tears of joy. It felt like tears of loss. I tried to brush it off. Weddings are emotional. She loves her brother. It was all normal, I told myself. It had to be. Later in the evening, as the party was winding down, I was standing alone for a moment, just taking it all in. The fairy lights, the lingering scent of flowers, the soft murmur of our guests. Liam was talking to his uncle across the lawn. Clara walked up to me, her expression unreadable. She was holding a glass of champagne and she swirled it slowly, her eyes fixed on me. "You look very happy," she said. Her voice was flat, without any of the celebratory warmth I'd heard from everyone else. "I am," I replied, my smile genuine. "It's been the best day of my life." She took a small sip of her drink, her gaze unwavering. It was starting to make me uncomfortable. "My brother is a good man," she said, the words coming out slow and deliberate. I nodded, feeling a swell of love for my new husband. "He's the best." Clara's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. It was cold. It was sharp. "You're just lucky," she continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper, a conspiratorial tone that made the hairs on my arms stand up. "You're just lucky I'm not in love with him anymore." I stared at her. The world seemed to stop for a second. The music faded, the laughter of our guests became a distant buzz. I must have heard her wrong. It had to be a joke. A strange, twisted, horrible joke. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. I searched her face for any sign of humor, a twinkle in her eye, a twitch of her lips. There was nothing. She was completely, utterly serious. Her eyes were like chips of ice. I managed to force a small, tight laugh. "Clara, that's a weird thing to say." She didn't laugh back. She just shrugged, a tiny, dismissive movement of her shoulders. "Is it?" she asked. Then she turned and walked away, melting back into the crowd as if she had just commented on the weather. I stood there, frozen. My heart was pounding in my chest. What did that mean? Any more? The word echoed in my mind. The perfect, beautiful day was suddenly tainted, covered in a thin layer of something ugly and unsettling. I looked over at Liam, still laughing with his uncle, completely unaware of the poison that had just been dripped into my ear. I felt a cold dread creep over me. This wasn't just a weird joke. This was a warning. My life as Liam's wife had just begun, and his sister had already declared war. I was shocked. Truly and deeply shocked. But underneath the shock, a tiny, hard knot of determination was already forming. I loved Liam, and I wasn't going to let anyone, not even his sister, ruin what we were building together. I tried to shake it off for the rest of the night. I danced with Liam. I talked to my parents. I smiled until my cheeks ached. But every time I caught a glimpse of Clara across the room, her words would come rushing back. "You're lucky I'm not in love with him anymore." It was a threat disguised as a confession. It was a claim of ownership. She was telling me that she had a prior claim, a deeper one, and that I was merely there on her sufferance. When Liam and I finally got to our hotel room, the exhaustion of the day hit me all at once. Liam was buzzing with happiness. He kicked off his shoes and fell back onto the bed with a huge, contented sigh. "We did it, Mrs. Miller," he said, grinning at me. I smiled back, but I knew my smile didn't quite reach my eyes. I had to tell him. I couldn't start our marriage with a secret this bizarre. I sat on the edge of the bed and took a deep breath. "Liam," I started, trying to keep my voice light. "Clara said something really strange to me tonight." He sat up, his expression shifting to one of concern. "What do you mean? Is she okay?" His first reaction was to worry about her. I noted that. "She's fine," I said. "It's what she said to me. We were talking and she said that you're a good man and that I'm lucky she's not in love with you anymore." I watched his face carefully. For a second, he just looked confused. Then a slow, tired smile spread across his lips, and he chuckled. "Oh, that's just Clara," he said, waving a dismissive hand. "She has a really dark, weird sense of humor. You'll get used to it. She's always been dramatic." My heart sank. That was not the reaction I had hoped for. "Liam, she wasn't joking," I insisted. "The way she looked at me, it was cold. It was serious." "Babe, I promise you it's nothing," he said, reaching out to pull me into a hug. "She loves me, and she's super protective. It's her way of saying she approves of you, but that you'd better take good care of me. It's just her weird, twisted way of talking. Please, don't let it ruin our night." I let him hold me, but I didn't feel comforted. He didn't get it. He couldn't see it. Or maybe he didn't want to. He had grown up with this, so to him it was normal. To me, an outsider, it was a blaring red flag. I decided to drop it for now. It was our wedding night. I didn't want to fight. I leaned into his embrace and tried to push Clara's chilling words out of my mind. But they lingered, a shadow in the corner of my otherwise perfect day, a quiet promise of problems to come. I had a feeling that getting used to Clara was going to be much harder than Liam could ever imagine. The honeymoon was a blissful escape. For 2 weeks, it was just Liam and me. No family, no phone calls, and most importantly, no Clara. We were in a tiny cabin by a lake, and it felt like we were the only 2 people in the world. We talked for hours. We went hiking. We built a life in miniature. Just the 2 of us. It was easy. It was perfect. It made me believe that maybe I had overreacted. Maybe Liam was right. Maybe it was just a strange comment that meant nothing. The memory of Clara's cold eyes began to fade, replaced by the warmth of Liam's love. The illusion shattered the day we got back. We walked into our apartment, tired but happy, to find it different. The throw pillows on the couch were arranged in a new, severe way. There was a vase of flowers on the coffee table that we hadn't bought, and the air smelled faintly of a perfume I didn't wear. "Did you ask someone to water the plants?" I asked Liam, my stomach tightening. "No," he said, looking around, just as confused as I was. "I asked my mom to grab the mail, but not to come inside." Just then, a key turned in the lock. The front door swung open, and in walked Clara. She was holding a grocery bag and smiling brightly. "Welcome home," she chirped, as if it were the most normal thing in the world for her to be letting herself into our apartment. "I figured you 2 would be too tired to cook, so I brought you some essentials." I just stood there, my suitcase still in my hand, staring at her. "Clara, how did you get in?" I asked, my voice tight. "Oh, I've had a key for years," she said breezily, walking past me into the kitchen. "Liam gave it to me back when he first moved in for emergencies." I looked at Liam. He had the grace to look a little sheepish. "I forgot she still had it," he mumbled. I didn't say anything. I just watched as Clara started unpacking the groceries, putting things away in my kitchen, acting like she owned the place. She had bought the brand of coffee Liam liked, but that I hated. She had bought his favorite cookies. There was nothing in the bag for me. It was a small thing, but it felt enormous. It was a message. This was her territory. Over the next few weeks, I learned that this was not a one-time occurrence. Clara was a constant presence in our lives. She would call Liam 5 or 6 times a day. If he didn't answer, she would call me, asking where he was, what he was doing, as if she needed to track his every move. She would drop by unannounced, using her key to let herself in. I would come home from work to find her on our couch, watching TV, or worse, helping around the house. Her help was a special kind of psychological warfare. She would reorganize my cupboards, claiming she was just making them more efficient. She would rewash a load of laundry I had already done, leaving a note that said, "Noticed a spot on Liam's shirt. I'll fix now." Every helpful act was a subtle criticism, a little dig that said, "You're not doing a good enough job of taking care of him. But don't worry, I'm here." I tried to talk to Liam about it. At first, I was gentle. "Honey, it makes me a little uncomfortable that Clara just lets herself in whenever she wants. This is our home now. Our private space." He sighed. That same tired sigh he'd used on our wedding night. "She's just trying to be helpful, Sarah. She's always been this way. It's how she shows she cares." "I know she means well," I lied. "But could you please ask her to at least call or text before she comes over?" He agreed, reluctantly. He had a conversation with her. I wasn't there for it, but I could imagine how it went. For about a week, she would text first. "Coming over in 5, she'd write, not waiting for a reply. Then the text stopped and the surprise visits started up again. It was like she was testing me, pushing my boundaries to see how much I would take. The breaking point came about a month after the wedding. Liam got a huge promotion at work. He had been working towards it for years, and I was incredibly proud of him. He called me with the good news, and I was ecstatic. "Don't tell anyone yet," I told him. "I want to do something special, just the two of us. I'll make your favorite dinner. We'll open that expensive bottle of wine we've been saving. Let's make it our night." He agreed. "Our night," he promised. "I won't say a word." I left work early, buzzing with excitement. I went to the fancy grocery store, I bought steaks, I picked up a decadent dessert. I spent the afternoon cooking, setting the table, lighting candles. I wanted everything to be perfect. It was our first big milestone as a married couple, and I wanted to celebrate it properly. I had just finished setting everything up when I heard the key in the lock. My heart sank. Please, I thought. Please don't be her. But it was. Clara burst in, her arms full of takeout containers. She took one look at my romantic dinner for 2 and her face fell, but only for a second. Then she pasted on a huge, fake smile. "Oh, you're cooking. How sweet," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "Well, don't worry. I brought reinforcements. I knew Liam would want to celebrate with family." Behind her, through the still-open door, I saw her parents, Brenda and Robert, walking up the hallway. Clara had invited them. She had taken our private, intimate moment and turned it into a family circus. I couldn't speak. I was trembling with a rage so intense it felt like a physical force. Liam walked in a few minutes later, looking confused. "What's going on?" he asked. "Clara told us the good news. We came to celebrate," Brenda said, bustling in and giving him a hug. Clara shot me a triumphant look over her mother's shoulder. It was a look that said, "See? He's ours, not yours. His victories belong to us." The night was a disaster. I was quiet and withdrawn. I could barely look at Liam. Clara dominated the conversation, telling stories about Liam's childhood achievements, positioning herself as the architect of his success. Brenda backed her up at every turn. Robert was quiet, as usual. Liam seemed oblivious, caught up in the excitement of his family's praise. He didn't even seem to notice that our special night had been completely hijacked. After they finally left, the silence in the apartment was deafening. The beautiful dinner I had made sat cold and untouched on the counter. What was that? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Liam looked at me, his happy mood finally evaporating as he saw the look on my face. What do you mean? They were excited for me. I mean, I said, my voice rising. I asked you for one thing. One thing. For this to be our night. I asked you not to tell anyone. How did Clara know? He had the decency to look guilty. I might have mentioned it to her on the phone earlier. I was just so excited. It slipped out. It slipped out? I repeated, incredulous. Liam, she didn't just find out. She planned this. She called your parents, she bought food, she deliberately ruined the dinner I planned for you. For us. You're overreacting, Sarah, he said, falling back on his usual defense. She was just trying to be nice. My family loves to celebrate my successes. You should be happy they care so much. I am not overreacting, I was shouting now. This isn't about them caring. This is about her controlling you. She can't stand for me to have one single thing with you that doesn't include her. She has to be in the middle of everything. That's not true, he shot back, his voice rising to match mine. You're just jealous of my relationship with my sister. You've had it out for her since the wedding. The accusation stung like a slap in the face. Jealous? Of that toxic, suffocating bond? Jealous? I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Oh, I'm not jealous, Liam. I'm terrified. I feel like I'm married to both of you. He recoiled as if I had actually hit him. The anger drained from his face, replaced by a deep, wounded hurt. That's a horrible thing to say. It's a horrible thing to feel, I whispered, the fight going out of me, replaced by a cold, heavy sadness. We stood there in silence, the ruins of our celebration surrounding us. This was more than just an argument over a ruined dinner. It was the first major battle in a war I was just beginning to understand. And the worst part was, my husband wasn't on my side. He was fighting for the enemy. I knew then that things had to change, and they had to change drastically. I couldn't live like this. The peace I had tried so hard to keep was already broken. It was time to draw a line in the sand. The morning after the fight was thick with unspoken words. We moved around each other in the small apartment like strangers. The anger had cooled into a hard, dense resentment. I knew that if we didn't address the root of the problem, this resentment would poison everything. I waited until he was sitting at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee and staring into space. I sat down opposite him. Liam, we need to talk about last night, I said, my voice quiet but firm. And I mean really talk. No more, that's just Clara. He sighed and rubbed his eyes, looking exhausted. Sarah, I'm sorry about your dinner. I really am. I didn't realize how much it meant to you. It wasn't about the dinner, I said, shaking my head. It's about the boundary. It's about the fact that your sister has a key to our home and uses it to walk in whenever she wants. It's about her inserting herself into every part of our life. It has to stop. The first step is we are changing the locks. He looked up, alarmed. Isn't that a little extreme? She's my sister. She is your sister, I agreed. She is not your roommate. She is not your spouse. This is our home, ours. We are the only two people who should have a key. Full stop. I could see the conflict in his eyes. He was caught between me and a lifetime of conditioning. He hated conflict, especially with his family, but he also saw the pain in my eyes. He saw that I was serious, that this was a non-negotiable point for me. Okay, he said finally, the word tasting like a concession. Okay, we'll change the locks. I felt a small surge of victory, but it was short-lived. I knew this was just the beginning. The locksmith came the next day. The sound of the drill was the sound of a new boundary being physically installed. It felt good. It felt safe. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered cautiously. It was Brenda, my mother-in-law. Her voice was dripping with a syrupy, passive-aggressive disappointment. Sarah, dear, she began. I just had Clara on the phone. She's absolutely beside herself. She's heartbroken. I stayed silent, waiting. She went to drop off some of Liam's old photo albums she thought you'd like to see, and her key didn't work, Brenda continued. She had to stand out in the hallway like a stranger. She called me, sobbing. Sarah, I don't understand why you would be so cruel. You know how sensitive she is. Brenda, I said, my voice even and calm. Liam and I are married now. We decided that we wanted our home to be our private space. It's not a personal attack on Clara. It's just a normal boundary for a married couple. Normal? She scoffed, the sweetness vanishing from her voice. It's not normal to cut family out. Clara has always been there for Liam. She practically raised him while Robert and I were working. You can't just erase that relationship because you're feeling a little insecure. Insecure. The word was designed to sting, and it did. My feelings about this have nothing to do with insecurity, I said, my grip tightening on the phone. They have to do with wanting a normal, healthy marriage. Well, you have a funny way of showing it, she snapped, and hung up. I sank onto the couch, my hands shaking. So that was the family narrative. Clara is fragile and sensitive, and I am the cruel, insecure new wife trying to tear their perfect family apart. The phone immediately rang again. This time it was Liam. What did you say to my mother? He demanded, his voice tight with frustration. She just called me, saying you were horrible to her and that Clara is a wreck. I told her the truth, Liam, I said, my own anger rising. That we decided to change the locks for our privacy. Did you have to be so blunt? You know how they are. You have to handle them with care. Handle them? I asked, my voice rising. They are grown adults. I am a grown adult. I shouldn't have to handle my in-laws. I should be able to set a simple, reasonable boundary without being painted as a villain. Your sister tried to come into our apartment without permission, and your mother is angry that she couldn't. Do you not see how insane that is? He was silent for a long moment. I just wish this could all be easier, he said, his voice small and tired. So do I said softly. But it won't be. Not until you're on my team. Not just in our apartment, but out there, with them. That night, I called my best friend, Maya. I told her everything, from the wedding comment to the changed locks and the phone calls. I had been holding it all in, trying to manage it myself, but I felt like I was drowning. Maya listened patiently, and when I was done, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Oh, honey, this is so much worse than you thought. This isn't just an overbearing sister. This is some next-level, emotionally incestuous obsession. The wedding comment? The key? The sabotage dinner? She's not trying to be part of your life. She's trying to get you out of it. Hearing someone else say it, someone from outside the crazy bubble of Liam's family, was a profound relief. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't the insecure, cruel monster they were making me out to be. What do I do? I asked, my voice cracking. Liam is so deep in it, he can't see it. You can't force him to see it, Maya said wisely. You have to create situations where he's forced to choose, and you have to start gathering information. Pay attention. Watch how they interact. Look for the patterns. Right now, it's your word against their entire family system. You need more than just your feelings. You need evidence. Her words solidified my resolve. She was right. I had to stop reacting emotionally and start being strategic. My next opportunity came at the weekly Sunday dinner at Liam's parents' house. We had skipped the week before because of the lock situation, but Liam insisted we go to smooth things over. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Clara wouldn't look at me, and Brenda was pointedly polite in a way that was more insulting than outright rudeness. I decided to follow Maya's advice. I observed. I watched as Clara served Liam's plate for him, giving him the best cut of roast. I watched as she fussed over him, wiping a tiny spot of gravy from his chin with her thumb, an act so bizarrely intimate it made my skin crawl. Liam just let her do it. A faint, embarrassed flush on his cheeks. Later, I was helping Brenda in the kitchen when she sighed dramatically. I just worry about Liam, she said, not looking at me. He seems so stressed lately. Clara says he's not sleeping well. He's fine, I said coolly. He's just been busy with the new position at work. Yes, of course, she said. It's just, Clara knows him so well. She can always tell when something is wrong. They have a special connection. Always have. It was a deliberate jab, another reminder of my outsider status. But I didn't take the bait. I just nodded and kept washing the dishes. Later, looking for a bathroom, I wandered down a hallway I hadn't been in before. It was lined with family photos. I stopped to look at them. There were cute baby pictures of Liam and Clara. School pictures. But as they got older, the photos became strange. There was one from their high school prom. Liam's date was in the picture, but Liam was standing with his arm wrapped tightly around Clara, both of them beaming at the camera, while his actual date stood awkwardly off to the side. There was another from a family vacation when they were in their late teens. They were sitting on a beach, and Clara was leaning against him, her head on his chest, his arms around her. They looked like a couple on their honeymoon, not siblings on a family trip. It was unsettling. It was more than just a close sibling bond. It felt possessive, proprietary. I took out my phone and quickly, quietly, snapped a few pictures of the most disturbing photos. I didn't know why. It just felt like evidence. I went back to the living room, my heart pounding. I had a new, chilling thought. Clara's wedding comment. You're lucky I'm not in love with him anymore. What if the anymore was a lie? What if she was just as in love with him as she had ever been? The thought made me feel sick. This wasn't just a battle for my husband's independence. This was a battle against an obsession so deep and so old, I wasn't sure I could ever win. But looking at Liam, talking to his father, so oblivious to the undercurrents swirling around him, I knew I had to. I had to find a way to save him from it. And to save myself. My new strategy of observation started to yield disturbing results almost immediately. Clara's behavior, which I had once seen as merely intrusive, now looked far more calculated. Her campaign to undermine me wasn't just about making me uncomfortable. It was about painting me as an unstable and unworthy partner for her beloved brother. She began a subtle but persistent smear campaign. At family gatherings, she would make comments disguised as concern. Is Sarah feeling all right? She'd ask Brenda, loud enough for me to hear. She seemed so quiet and withdrawn. I hope the stress of the new marriage isn't too much for her. Brenda would always play her part. Oh, it's a big adjustment. I'm sure she'll find her footing eventually. The implication was clear. I was the problem. I was fragile. I was failing. I learned from a cousin of Liam's that Clara had been telling people I was cold and unfriendly. She would tell stories that twisted innocent situations. An evening when I had a headache and went to bed early became, Sarah locked herself in the bedroom and refused to speak to Liam for hours. A day I spent working from home to meet a deadline was spun as, Sarah ignored Liam all day. She's so wrapped up in her career, she has no time for him. They were small lies, but they were building a narrative. I tried to counter it by being warmer, more engaged, but it was like fighting a shadow. Anything I did was reinterpreted through the lens Clara had created. If I was friendly, I was being fake. If I was quiet, I was being sullen. I felt like I was losing a game I didn't even know the rules to. The next major front in our silent war was money. Liam and I had separate bank accounts, but we had a joint account for household expenses. One day, I was looking over the statement and saw a recurring monthly transfer of several $100s to an account I didn't recognize. When I asked Liam about it, he got defensive. Oh, that's just some money I sent to Clara, he said, trying to sound casual. I was stunned. You send Clara money every month? Why? Does she need help? No, not really, he admitted. It's just an old arrangement. When I first started working, I set it up to help her out with her car payment. I guess I just never canceled it. Liam, she has a good job. I said, trying to keep my voice steady. And we're trying to save for a down payment on a house. We can't afford to just be giving away hundreds of dollars a month. It's my money, Sarah, he said, his voice turning cold. From my personal account. It's not coming out of our joint funds. But it's money that could be going into our joint funds, I argued. It's money that affects our future together. And besides that, why does she have access to your personal account? He looked away. She doesn't have access. I just send it to her. I had a sick feeling in my stomach. I didn't believe him. That night, after he was asleep, I did something I'm not proud of. I opened his laptop and went to his bank's website. I knew his password. I logged in. And there it was. Clara wasn't just receiving a transfer. She was listed as a co-owner on his primary checking account. She had full access. She could see every dollar he earned, every purchase he made. She could withdraw money whenever she wanted. I felt a wave of nausea. This was a level of enmeshment that was beyond anything I had imagined. It wasn't just a key to our apartment. It was a key to our entire financial life. The control she had over him was absolute. The next day, I confronted him, my voice shaking with fury. You lied to me. She's on your account. She has been on it the entire time. He couldn't meet my eyes. It was set up years ago, he mumbled. My mom insisted on it when I went to college in case of emergencies. I never thought to take her off. In case of emergencies? I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Liam, we are married. I am the person for emergencies now. This has to stop. You have to take her off the account and you have to stop sending her money. Today. This led to the biggest fight we had ever had. He accused me of trying to control him, of being obsessed with money. He said I was trying to sever his relationship with his family. I screamed back that his sister was the one controlling him, that she had her tentacles in every aspect of our life and I was suffocating. In the end, he caved, but he was angry and resentful. He went to the bank by himself. He came home sullen and withdrawn. The next day, Brenda called him, and from his side of the conversation, I could tell she was berating him for cutting Clara off. He was defending his decision, but his voice was weak. He was losing. I knew Clara wouldn't take this lying down. She needed to reassert her dominance, to prove that she still held the power. Her revenge came a few weeks later. For my birthday, Liam had planned a surprise weekend getaway for us. He was so excited about it. He told me he was taking me to a beautiful bed and breakfast in the mountains, a place I had always wanted to go. It was the first time in months I had seen him genuinely happy and relaxed with me, without the shadow of his family looming over us. It felt like a chance to reconnect, to remember why we fell in love in the first place. We packed our bags on a Friday morning, ready to leave right after lunch. We were both giddy with anticipation. At 11 o'clock, Liam's phone rang. It was Clara. I saw his face fall as he listened. What? He said. Is everything okay? Slow down. I watched him, my stomach clenching with a familiar dread. A leak? A major leak? He said, his voice full of alarm. Okay, calm down. Yes, I'll be right there. He hung up the phone and looked at me, his face a mask of apology. I am so sorry, Sarah. That was Clara. There's a huge water leak in her apartment. The ceiling is about to collapse. She's hysterical. I have to go over there and help her. Now? I asked, my voice flat. Liam, we're about to leave. I know, he said, already grabbing his jacket. I'll be as quick as I can. I'll just help her turn off the water and call a plumber. I promise, I'll be back in an hour, 2 at the most. We can still make it. I didn't believe him, but I just nodded. I knew arguing would be pointless. He was already gone, running to her rescue, just as he had been trained to do his entire life. 2 hours passed, then 3. I called him. He didn't answer. I texted. No reply. Finally, 4 hours after he had left, he called me back. Hey, he said, his voice weary. It's a bigger mess than we thought. The plumber is here, but we had to move all her furniture. I'm so sorry, babe, but there's no way we can leave today. I have to stay and help her clean up. The disappointment was so sharp it felt like a physical pain, but underneath it, something else was stirring. A cold, hard suspicion. Okay, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. Just come home when you can. I spent the rest of the day unpacking our bags. The trip was ruined. The weekend was ruined. Liam finally stumbled home late that night, covered in dust and smelling like damp drywall. He was full of apologies, but I could barely look at him. The next day, I did something else I'm not proud of. While Liam was in the shower, I picked up his phone. My hands were shaking. I had never violated his privacy like this before, but I had to know. I went to his call log and found the number for the plumber he had supposedly been with all day. I dialed it. A man answered. City Plumbing. Hi, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm calling to check on a job you did yesterday at an apartment on Elm Street. Elm Street? The man said. Let me see. Nope, we didn't have any calls on Elm Street yesterday. We had a clogged drain on Oak Street, but that's it. My blood ran cold. He had lied. There was no plumber. Are you sure? I pressed. My husband said there was a major leak. Lady, I'm sure, the plumber said, his voice full of impatience. We didn't do any leak repairs yesterday. Not on Elm Street, not anywhere. I hung up the phone. I felt a strange, terrifying calm settle over me. It was all a lie. A calculated, manipulative lie designed for one purpose: to ruin our trip. To punish me for the bank account. To prove that when Clara called, Liam would always come running, no matter the cost to our relationship. I felt utterly and completely alone. My marriage didn't feel like a partnership. It felt like a cage, with 3 people rattling around inside it. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were hollow. I had been fighting a war of attrition, and I was losing. I was exhausted from the constant battles, the endless justifications, the feeling of being gaslit by an entire family. That was the moment I realized I had to change my tactics. Confronting Liam didn't work. He was too deep in the fog, too programmed to defend her. Arguing with his mother was pointless. She was the architect of this whole sick dynamic. And Clara would never stop. I couldn't fight them head-on anymore. It was time to go underground. I would no longer voice my complaints. I would no longer show my anger or my hurt. I would smile. I would be pleasant. And I would watch. I would listen. I would gather my evidence piece by piece. I would wait for the moment, the perfect moment, to pull the entire rotten structure down around them. It was a cold and lonely decision, but it was the only one I had left. My quiet promise to myself was made. The fight wasn't over. It had just entered a new, more dangerous phase. The months that followed were a masterclass in self-control. On the outside, I was the perfect, accommodating wife and daughter-in-law. I attended Sunday dinners and smiled through Brenda's backhanded compliments. I listened politely when Clara told long, rambling stories that always seemed to circle back to her and Liam's unbreakable bond. I stopped complaining to Liam about her calls or her comments. I made our home a peaceful, pleasant place. Liam was relieved. He thought we had turned a corner, that I had finally gotten used to his family, as he'd predicted on our wedding night. Our arguments ceased. Our home life became calmer. He was happier, more relaxed, and in turn, more affectionate towards me. He didn't realize that my silence was not acceptance. It was observation. It was the quiet before a storm I was meticulously planning. I became a detective in my own life. I documented everything. Every intrusive text message from Clara, every manipulative comment from Brenda, every time Liam canceled our plans to cater to a manufactured crisis from his sister. I kept a private journal on my computer, a detailed log of dates, times, and verbatim quotes. It felt clinical, detached, but it was the only way I could process the constant emotional onslaught without breaking down. My biggest breakthrough, the key that would unlock the entire twisted history of Liam's family, came from a place I never expected. Liam's old, forgotten laptop. It was a clunky, outdated machine that he kept in the back of our study closet. He hadn't turned it on in at least 5 years. One Saturday, I was searching for an old tax document we needed, and I remembered he might have saved it on that computer. I pulled it out, blew the dust off the lid, and plugged it in. To my surprise, it whirred to life. It asked for a password. I tried the one he used for everything else, a combination of his childhood dog's name and his birth year. It worked. The desktop was cluttered with old college papers and photos from a decade ago. I found the tax document I was looking for, but then something else caught my eye. A folder on the desktop simply labeled Clara. My heart started to beat a little faster. It was probably just old photos of her. I shouldn't look. It was a violation of his privacy, a line I had promised myself I wouldn't cross again after the plumber incident. But I couldn't help myself. My hand trembled as I moved the cursor and double-clicked. The folder opened. It wasn't photos. It was a collection of saved email files, dozens of them. They were all from about 10 years ago, during Liam's junior year of college. This was when he was several states away from home for the first time. It was also, I remembered him telling me once, when he had his first serious girlfriend, a girl named Jessica. I clicked on the first email. It was from Clara. The subject line was, "Please call me." The body of the email was frantic. "Liam, you haven't called me back in 2 days. I know she's there. I know you're spending all your time with her. Don't you miss me? Don't you miss us? I can't eat. I can't sleep. Mom is worried sick. You need to come home this weekend. I need you." I felt a chill run down my spine. I opened another one. I saw the picture she posted of you two. The way she looks at you. She thinks she owns you. She's trying to take you away from me, from your family. She doesn't understand you, Liam. Not like I do. She'll never understand what we have. The emails got progressively more unhinged. Liam's replies were interspersed between them. He was patient, pleading. "Clara, please calm down. Jessica is a nice girl. You would like her if you gave her a chance. I'm not abandoning you. I'll call you tomorrow." Her reply to that was terrifying. "A nice girl? A nice girl? She is a parasite, and she is poisoning you against me. If you loved me, you would see it. If you don't break up with her, I don't know what I'll do. I swear, Liam, I will fall apart. I can't live without you. You are my other half. It's always been you and me. Always." In one email, she threatened to hurt herself if he didn't come home immediately. The final emails in the chain were heartbreaking. Liam, a 19-year-old boy, was clearly overwhelmed, guilt-ridden, and terrified. He was trying to manage his first real relationship while his sister was emotionally blackmailing him from hundreds of miles away. The last email was from him to Jessica. It was short and stilted. "I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. It's not you. It's my family. Things are complicated. I need to go home." He had broken up with her. He had caved. Clara had won. I sat there staring at the screen, the pieces of the puzzle clicking into place with a horrifying clarity. This wasn't new. This wasn't about me. I was just the latest in a long line of women who had tried to love Liam. Clara hadn't just sabotaged my dinner party or my birthday trip. She had been systematically destroying his romantic life for over a decade. Her comment at our wedding? "You're lucky I'm not in love with him anymore." It was a lie, a sick, twisted lie. She had never stopped. Her love wasn't the healthy, supportive love of a sister. It was a possessive, corrosive, all-consuming obsession. And the entire family, especially Brenda, had enabled it, coddled it, and fed it, turning Liam into a hostage in his own life, responsible for the emotional stability of his disturbed sister. I felt a profound sadness for the young man Liam had been, trapped and manipulated by the people who were supposed to protect him. But that sadness was quickly replaced by a cold, hard anger. They had broken him, conditioned him to respond to her every whim, to sacrifice his own happiness for hers. And now they were trying to do the same thing to me, to our marriage. I knew with absolute certainty that I was holding the key. This was the evidence Maya had told me to find. This was the proof. But I also knew I couldn't just walk up to Liam and show him these emails. He would see it as the ultimate betrayal of his trust. He would shut down, get defensive, and accuse me of snooping. The message would be lost because the delivery was wrong. No, I had to be smarter than that. I had to create a situation where he would be open to hearing the truth. I needed him to see Clara's current behavior mirrored in her past actions. I needed him to connect the dots himself. I saved a copy of the entire email chain to a secure cloud drive, then deleted the folder from the laptop and cleared the history. I put the old machine back in the closet, my hands steady now. My plan began to form. It was risky. It was manipulative in its own way, and I hated that. But I was fighting fire with fire. Our first wedding anniversary was 2 months away. I would plan a party, a big one. I would invite everyone. It would be the perfect stage. I would create a scenario so similar to the one that had played out with Jessica 10 years ago that Liam would be forced to see the pattern. Clara, I knew, was predictable. Her playbook hadn't changed in a decade. And this time, when she ran her play, I would be ready. I would make sure Liam was finally ready to see it too. The 2 months leading up to our anniversary party were the calmest period of our marriage. I played my part to perfection. I was cheerful, loving, and completely non-confrontational. I involved both Clara and Brenda in the party planning, asking for their opinions on decorations and food. This disarmed them. They saw it as my surrender, my final acceptance of my place in their family structure. Clara, in particular, became almost smug. She treated me with a kind of patronizing affection, as if I were a child she had finally managed to tame. I let her. I smiled and thanked her for her wonderful ideas. Liam was thrilled. "See?" he said to me one night. "I told you things would get better. You just needed to give her a chance. She really does care about you." I just smiled and squeezed his hand. Inside, my heart felt like a block of ice. The party was to be held at our apartment, which we'd now lived in for a year. It was a celebration of our survival, though only I knew how close we had come to not making it. I invited all our friends and the entire extended family. I wanted witnesses. A week before the party, I set the bait. I took Brenda out for lunch, just the two of us. I presented it as a thank you for all her help with the party planning. She lapped it up. Over salads, I leaned in conspiratorially. "Brenda, I wanted to tell you something exciting, but you have to promise to keep it a secret for now," I said, my voice full of fake enthusiasm. "A company in Seattle has offered me a huge promotion. A dream job, really. It would mean relocating, of course. Liam and I have been talking about it. He's so supportive. He thinks a fresh start, just the two of us, would be a wonderful adventure." I watched her face. The mask of polite interest slipped for just a fraction of a second. I saw a flicker of pure panic in her eyes before she smoothed it over with a tight, brittle smile. "Oh, Seattle. That's very far away," she said. "I know," I said, pretending to be oblivious. "It would be so hard to be away from the family, but it's such a big opportunity. Please don't say anything to anyone, especially Clara. I don't want to upset her until we've made a final decision." "Of course, dear," she said, patting my hand. "My lips are sealed." I knew she would be on the phone to Clara before her car was out of the restaurant parking lot. The trap was set. Now all I had to do was wait for the target to walk into it. The night of the party, our apartment was buzzing with people. Music was playing, champagne was flowing. Liam was in his element, laughing and talking with our friends. He looked happier than I had seen him in a long time. I felt a pang of guilt for what I was about to do, for turning our celebration into a battlefield. But I crushed it down. This was surgery. It was painful, but it was necessary to save the patient. Clara arrived late with Brenda and Robert in tow. She was wearing a black dress, more appropriate for a funeral than an anniversary party. Her face was pale and her eyes were puffy, as if she'd been crying. She ignored me completely, making a beeline for Liam. Brenda shot me a look of pure accusation. I watched them from across the room. Clara pulled Liam into a corner, her back to the party, creating a bubble of manufactured intimacy. She was talking to him, her expression intense, her hands gesturing wildly. Liam looked increasingly uncomfortable. He kept trying to pull away, to rejoin the party, but she would grab his arm, her voice rising with urgency. This was it. I casually walked over to my friend Maya, who was standing nearby. I had already briefed her on the situation. "She's starting," I whispered. "Can you get a little closer? Just act like you're getting a drink. And make sure your phone is recording." Maya nodded, her expression grim. "You got it," she said, and drifted towards the bar, which was conveniently located just a few feet behind where Liam and Clara were standing. I gave it a few more minutes, letting Clara dig her own grave. Then I took a deep breath and walked over to them, a bright, cheerful smile plastered on my face. "Everything okay over here?" I asked, looping my arm through Liam's. Clara recoiled as if I had burned her. Her eyes, when they met mine, were filled with a venomous hatred. "We're having a private conversation," she hissed. "Well, it's our party, and he's my husband, so I think I can join in," I said, my smile never wavering. Liam looked helplessly between the two of us. "Clara, maybe we can talk about this later." "No, we need to talk about it now," she insisted, her voice getting louder, drawing the attention of a few nearby guests. She turned her fury on me. "This is all your fault. You're trying to steal him. You're selfishly trying to drag him all the way across the country and tear him away from his family." So Brenda had told her. Perfect. "Clara, what are you talking about?" Liam asked, completely bewildered. "She knows," Clara shrieked. "This Seattle job. She's trying to isolate you to get you all to herself. You can't go, Liam. You can't leave me." The music seemed to falter. A pocket of silence was growing around us as people stopped talking to watch the unfolding drama. "Clara, stop," Liam said, his voice firm but his face flushed with embarrassment. "You're being dramatic." Those were the magic words. The same words he had used with me on our wedding night. This was my moment. I let go of his arm and took a small step back. I looked directly at him, my voice calm and clear, but loud enough for those around us to hear. "Is she Liam?" I asked. "Or is this just what she does every time a woman gets close to you?" He stared at me, confused. "What?" I kept my eyes locked on his. I didn't look at Clara. She was irrelevant now. This was about him. "Does she tell you that you'll be miserable without her?" I asked, my voice steady. "Does she tell you that no one can ever understand you or love you like she does? Does she threaten to fall apart if you don't do what she wants? Does she call the woman you're with a parasite?" Liam's face went completely white. His jaw went slack. I could see the gears turning in his head. He recognized the words. He recognized the pattern. The script was a decade old, and his sister was still reading from it. "How?" he whispered, his eyes wide with shock. "How did you know she said those things?" "Because she's been doing it for years, Liam," I said, my voice softening with a sadness that was completely real. "She did it to Jessica, and she's been doing it to me since the day we met. And it's time for it to stop." He turned slowly to face his sister. For the first time, he wasn't looking at her with pity or a sense of obligation. He was looking at her with the dawning horror of comprehension. He was seeing her, truly seeing her for the first time. "Is this true?" he asked her, his voice barely a whisper. "The things Sarah said? Did you do that with Jessica?" Clara froze. The color drained from her face. She looked like a cornered animal. She looked to her mother for help. Brenda rushed forward. "Liam, stop this. Clara is just upset. You're hurting her." But before Brenda could launch into her usual defense, Robert, the quiet, passive father, stepped forward. He put a hand on his wife's arm. "Brenda, stop," he said, his voice heavy with a long-buried weariness. Just stop. He needs to know. Everyone was staring now. The party was completely silent. Liam's voice was stronger now, demanding, "Answer me, Clara." Clara stared at him, her mouth opening and closing, but no words came out. The truth was written all over her face. She couldn't deny it, so she did the only thing she could do. She let out a choked sob, turned, and fled. She pushed her way through the stunned crowd and ran out of the apartment, slamming the door behind her. Brenda shot me a look of pure, unadulterated hatred before rushing out after her daughter. Robert stood there for a moment, his shoulders slumped. He looked at me, then at Liam, with an expression of profound regret. Then he too turned and left. The party was over. Our guests, not knowing what to do, began to leave in a quiet, awkward stream, murmuring their goodbyes. Soon it was just Liam and me and Maya, standing in the ruins of our anniversary celebration. Liam sank onto the couch as if his legs could no longer support him. He stared into space, his face pale and shattered. He looked like a man whose entire world had just been revealed as a lie. I had won. I had exposed her. But looking at my broken husband, it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like a tragedy. The silence that filled the apartment after everyone left was heavier than any argument we'd ever had. Maya gave my shoulder a supportive squeeze. "I'm going to go," she whispered. "Call me if you need anything." I nodded, grateful for her friendship and her discretion. Then it was just the two of us. Liam hadn't moved. He was still sitting on the couch, staring at the opposite wall, his expression blank. The debris of the party, the half-empty glasses, the plates of uneaten food, surrounded us like wreckage from a shipwreck. I sat down beside him, not touching him, just giving him space. I didn't know what to say. I had detonated a bomb in the middle of his life, and now he had to figure out how to live in the rubble. After a long time, he finally spoke, his voice raspy and thin. "All this time," he said, not looking at me. "All this time, I thought I was protecting her. I thought she was fragile. That she needed me." "I know," I said softly. He finally turned his head to look at me, his eyes full of a pain so deep it made my own chest ache. But I wasn't protecting her. I was her prisoner and my mother. My mother was the warden. It was the most honest thing he had ever said about his family. The fog was clearing. "How did you know about Jessica?" he asked. "How did you know the exact words she used?" This was the moment of truth between us. I had to confess my own transgression. "I found them," I said quietly. "On your old laptop. I was looking for a tax file, and I found the emails. I read them, Liam. I'm sorry I invaded your privacy, but I had to understand what I was up against." I expected him to be angry, to feel betrayed, but he just nodded slowly, a look of weary resignation on his face. "I'm not angry," he said, his voice hollow. I think a part of me is glad you did, because I never would have seen it on my own. I was too close. I've been breathing this poison my whole life. I didn't even know it was killing me." We sat in silence again. Then I told him everything. I told him about the constant undermining, the lies Clara told the family, the sabotage of my birthday trip, the fake plumber. I laid it all out, piece by piece, the entire ugly story of our first year of marriage. He listened without interrupting, his face growing paler with each revelation. When I was finished, he looked utterly broken. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I let this happen. I didn't protect you. I defended her again and again. I chose them over you. Can you ever forgive me?" "There's nothing to forgive," I said, and I meant it. "You were a victim in this too. They programmed you. But now you know. Now we can fight back together." He shook his head. "I don't want to fight anymore. I just want it to stop." "It can," I said, "but it's going to take work. Hard work. We need help. Therapy? He asked, the word sounding foreign on his tongue. Yes, I said. For us, as a couple, to learn how to be a team, and for you, individually, to unpack all of this. And we need to set some real, unbreakable boundaries with your family. He nodded, a flicker of resolve in his tired eyes. Okay, he said. Okay, whatever it takes. The next few days were a blur of difficult conversations. The first was with his parents. We asked them to come to our apartment. Brenda arrived defensive, her face a thunderous mask. Robert looked old and defeated. Brenda started immediately. I cannot believe you would humiliate your sister like that. In front of all your friends. She is devastated. She won't come out of her room. Liam held up a hand, and for the first time, his voice was strong, unwavering. Mom, stop. We are not talking about Clara's feelings right now. We are talking about her actions. For years, you have enabled her. You have encouraged this sick attachment she has to me. You made me feel responsible for her happiness, and it has ruined every relationship I've ever had. It almost ruined my marriage. Brenda looked stunned, as if he had slapped her. That's not true. We just love you. She just loves her brother so much. It was Robert who answered, his voice quiet but firm. Brenda, stop. He's right. We broke that boy by making him her keeper. We saw what she was doing, and we let it happen because it was easier than dealing with her tantrums. It was a mistake. A terrible mistake. This ends now. Brenda stared at her husband, speechless. She had lost her primary ally. She looked from Robert's determined face to Liam's newfound strength, and something in her seemed to crumble. She had lost control. She sat there, silent and fuming, for the rest of the conversation. We laid out the new rules. They were not to speak to us on Clara's behalf. Communication would be limited for a while. Sunday dinners were canceled indefinitely. We would let them know when we were ready to re-engage, and it would be on our terms. The hardest conversation was for Liam to have alone. He called Clara. I sat in the other room, but I could hear his side of it. His voice was calm, compassionate but resolute. Clara, I love you. You're my sister, he said. But the way you have been acting is not healthy. For you or for me, I need space. A lot of space. Sarah and I need to heal our marriage, and we can't do that with you in the middle of it. I think you need to get professional help to understand why you do these things. I won't be speaking to you for a while. Please don't call or text. I'll reach out when I'm ready. I could hear her muffled screaming through the phone. The hysterics, the accusations, the emotional blackmail. It was the same playbook from the emails. But this time, Liam didn't cave. He just kept repeating, I'm sorry you feel that way, but this is what I need to do. Finally, he said, Goodbye, Clara, and ended the call. He came into the living room, his face pale but his shoulders straight. He had done it. He had finally cut the cord. Life became quiet. Blissfully, wonderfully quiet. The phone stopped ringing constantly. There were no more surprise visits, no more passive-aggressive notes, no more manufactured dramas. It was strange at first, like the phantom limb of an amputee. We had grown so used to the chaos that the peace felt unnatural. But slowly we settled into it. We started therapy. We talked more than we ever had before, about our childhoods, our fears, our dreams. We were getting to know each other again without the constant interference and noise of his family. Our marriage, which had been on life support, began to breathe on its own. It grew stronger, healthier, and more real than it had ever been. We decided to take the job in Seattle. Not because of the promotion, but for the distance. We needed a clean slate, a place where we could be a couple without the weight of family history pressing down on us. Selling our apartment and packing up our lives felt like shedding a skin. It was a relief. Months passed. We were settled in our new city, building a new life. We were happy. Truly happy. We spoke to his parents occasionally. The calls were stilted but civil. Brenda was slowly coming to terms with the new reality. Robert was supportive. We heard nothing from Clara. It was as if she had vanished from the earth. Then one day, a letter arrived. It had been forwarded from our old address. The handwriting on the envelope was hers. My heart clenched. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside, there was no letter. Just a single old photograph. It was one of the ones I had seen on the hallway wall at his parents' house. A teenage Liam and Clara sitting on a beach, his arms wrapped around her, her head resting on his chest. They looked like lovers. Underneath the photo, she had written a short, spidery message. "You won, but you'll never have the best of him. I already did." I felt a chill, the same cold dread I'd felt on my wedding day. She was still trying to poison us, even from 1,000 miles away. I handed the photo to Liam without a word. He looked at it, his expression unreadable. He read the words she had written. For a moment, I was afraid. I was afraid the old guilt, the old programming would flicker back to life. But then he did something that told me everything I needed to know. He looked at the photograph, at the image of the two people he and his sister used to be. Then he calmly, deliberately, ripped it into 4 pieces. He walked to the trash can and dropped them in. He came back to me and wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me close. He looked into my eyes, his own clear and steady. "She's wrong," he said, his voice quiet but certain. "The best of me is just getting started. With you." I leaned my head against his chest, the steady rhythm of his heart a comfort against my ear. He was right. We were just getting started. The ghost of his sister's obsession would always be a footnote in our story, a dark chapter we had to navigate. But it was just a story now. It was in the past. We had finally learned how to close the book, and we were the ones writing the next chapter together.